All right, welcome to Trust the Journey. I'm Melanie Curtis.
And I'm Jason Mletsky.
Our mission is to live, laugh, love, and learn together with you.
We're here to create conscious connections, to grow and contribute through our practice of openness, honesty, vulnerability, humility, and trust. Trusting the entire journey.
Amen. Oh man. Family, if you want to find us online, go to trustthejourney.today. You can become a Patreon supporter. You can join the Trust the Journey family where we expand the dialogue from the podcast in a more intimate way. You can follow us on Instagram, also trustthejourney.today. So yeah, follow us, join us anywhere you feel called to join us. And today we are diving in and doing a mutual therapy session, which I think is sort of totally awesome, personally. So tell me, my friend, why would you like to do this particular episode?
Well, I've just been paying attention to kind of how we've both been operating lately in regards to our responsibilities and commitments to all the different areas in our lives. And, you know, we hold a strong commitment to the Trust the Journey project. And each of us, you know, shows up for that with our commitment. But it's been pretty obvious for the last, say, month or so, a little more, that it's busy for both of us. And we're stretched thin, and we don't usually let our edits fall down to like the days before they're getting released and stuff like that. And I can see the fact that we're both stretched really thin right now. So
yeah,
might be good to just take a minute and not try to talk about something else.
Yeah.
You know, maybe
totally.
just talk about where we're at right now.
That's where we are, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been very intense. I don't know the details fully of what's going on your side, but I know that the intensity is interestingly matched, it seems, with both of us.
Tell me about it.
Yeah. What?
Tell me about it.
Yeah. No, I'm thinking about where to begin. Whenever I have this type of phase, I'm always like, my instant feeling is, oh my God, where do I even start? There's so much. You know what I mean? Part of it is because I took my first trip post-COVID, like in COVID times, and that trip was to lead a big training camp for Highlight, our demonstration jump team, and I mean, lead it, co-lead it is what I mean. I'm not trying to take singular ownership of that, but all absolutely is a team effort. But yeah, so that was huge. We had a lot to accomplish, so we had to plan for that, all while leading up to our actual demonstration jumps. And again, we did one before the training camp, then we had this huge training camp, which was excellent. It was totally excellent, but I was totally off the grid. I was navigating the fear and the learning of how to travel again. And just as we've talked about on the podcast before, travel outside of a pandemic is always a stress on sort of the amount of time and energy you have. At least it usually is for me. It's rare that I get back from traveling that I don't have some period of recovery, much less multiple days of skydiving and leading and having major goals to accomplish throughout those limited days together. So that was one thing. Preceding that was the jump at Seneca Falls that we did, which was super awesome too. It's the only reason it's full on is because it takes so much work to do any one of those demo jumps. And while we're building the team and building the brand and building the back end business, so it's like full on startup mode. Like I am in full the fuck on startup mode with Highlight. And so that, coupled with actually running my life coaching business, talking to clients, being present and with them, right? Holding that space, that's super important to me to do. And so it requires a real not messing around with what I start to say no to. in order to make it possible. And that's the thing you mentioned in your sort of starting comments about how committed we are and how we always show up for Trust the Journey. And that's another thing I feel extremely fully committed to. And so it's been an interesting thing to feel the amount of workload and intensity inside of a project and a business and a startup and a mission that means something to me, because I want to be in all the places I'm being. There's no part of what I'm doing that is, oh, I wish I weren't having to do that. I don't feel that way. For me, it's I'm aligned. I'm in aligned work, which is so fucking amazing. I'm so grateful. And it's a lot. So I'm just in this growth period of like, holy crap, how do I maintain my level of execution and integrity with my word and organization and all the things that go into being a person who can, with integrity, deliver at a high quality level and lead at a high quality level and be present and hold space at a high quality level when it's so much. So that's why I need a therapy session.
Yeah. Do you feel like there's anything on your list that is prioritizing your time, like that there's an order, or is it that the amount of time that you have isn't enough to cover all the things? I guess my question is there one thing that's taking you away from everything else, or is it just trying to spread everything out evenly enough so that it all gets the right amount of time allocated?
Yeah, that's a great question. Highlight is definitely prioritized at the moment because August, this month, what we're recording this on August 7th, and this month is the centennial anniversary of the 19th Amendment. So our biggest jump in Nashville is on August 18th. We have another big jump with a lot of media and a live feed also in New York City later in the month. And we have another one in Pennsylvania relative to some other women's suffrage history. So all of that happening now, that's timeline-wise, chronology-wise, is taking the priority seat. But because, like I said, delivering at a high level and still holding space for my life coaching clients and being here and being with you matters to me. So it's like figuring out, because I'm very clear and conscious that I'm not willing to focus solely on one thing. I'm not willing to focus only and solely on highlight because I want to make sure my life coaching people are cared for, that this project is cared for. And so I have to intentionally make time for those things. Otherwise, it's easy to let a big project that has a real amazing momentum take over. So it's just, for me, it takes intention. And I mean it like, it sounds easy, just be like, oh yeah, just bring intention, bring consciousness to what you choose. I can do that, but that momentum is powerful. And like making those decisions to what to focus your energy on, what can you actually handle, and then starting to learn how to delegate. And what does that look like in a new team? What does that look like in a new business? And so that's stuff that we're managing too. And I say we because I'm inclusive of our team and Amy as well as my co-lead on Highlight.
I was just up in Nashville a few weeks ago.
Yeah?
Yeah. That was my one and only breakaway trip during the times of COVID. Decided to get on the road for a little 3 or 4 day getaway in the van and kind of just take a local trip to where there's at least some relief, some mountains and some rivers, and go explore. Did a little paragliding, went to Nashville, went to Chattanooga, went and saw some friends nearby, and yeah. Love
it. Yeah, and COVID adds a different layer of stress. Like I'm in the tri-state area where there are travel restrictions. I come back, I have to get a test, I have to quarantine for 2 weeks, so there's and we have a, we're operating fully, completely COVID compliant because we want to lead from that perspective of safety and caring for the population and humanity. So that's just been another added layer of stress while trying to do all these things and be out in the world while really keeping an eye and understanding of a moving target of what do we do that is the best way to operate and how to, adhere to the guidelines presented by the states that we're going to be in. So crazy times. But tell me more about you. What's going on in your world? Say more.
Well, it's a bit of a whirlwind lately. I listened to my instinct and decided to put my house on the market.
Yeah, that's exciting.
And that's been on my to-do list for quite a while, to make a move out of Florida and to go be in the mountains and change up the scenery. So I prepped the house, got everything spick and span perfect to present and to do photographs and everything, and got everything spotless, and the house sold in 2 days.
Oh my gosh.
So now I'm in the midst of going, okay, this is all happening, and I'm purging anything that I don't need to have in my life. And the timing was pretty full on, because I didn't really expect it to just have an offer and close a full asking price in like 2 days. So it kind of threw me by surprise. I kind of figured I put the price pretty high because I kind of wanted it to take a little while to sell.
Yep.
And so now I feel kind of pinned, and I actually had to put a fair bit of time in the closing process to allow me enough time to finish the projects that I was already working on, because I have like 2 major projects that have been about over a year long that are both finalizing in the same week, a third that's been a few months long that's also finalizing at the same time, and a couple of those are work projects and one of them is a personal project. The personal project is my van build that I've been working on, scheming it for 2-3 years now. Physically, I've had the van for about a year and a few months, and I started working on it 1 year ago.
Yeah, wow.
So the build out of that, I'm going to move into the van. So I have to finish the build to be able to move in, and I'm using all the tools in my garage to do that. And as soon as I finish the build, I got to like pack all my stuff away. Right. So there's the pressure to get it done. And right now it's the middle of summer. It's a peak heat, and it's 95% humidity in Florida, and it's like 105 degrees. It's murder. So it's really, really hard. I have zero motivation to be out there doing any work on this project. And when I am, it's just really hard work, and I run out of steam so quick. I have these visions of who I am and what I can do and what I'm capable of, and when I put myself out there in this temperatures, it's just not happening. I'm like a couple hours in, and I'm like, kaplump, I'm done. I'm
That's
smoked.
Understandable.
So yeah, so lots of stuff going on. Lots of relationship issues dancing around at the same time, personal growth stuff, dealing with addiction, dealing with growth and change, and going through the cocoon stage is where I feel like I've been in for quite a long time now. I kind of like purposefully, set myself up to live alone and to have a period of growth, and now that period's kind of coming to an end, and I have no idea what's ahead, because I don't know exactly where I'm going or what's happening, but I know my instincts told me now's the time to do this, and like, oh gosh, I hate it when my instincts tell me what to do, because I have to listen to them, and oftentimes it's really scary because they don't always tell you the whole story. They just give you the you need to do this part right now kind of feeling, and it's like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I gotta step off the cliff into the great unknown again, and here goes,
Oh my God, so. Right? I commend you for listening. Yeah, I commend you for listening. It's not easy. every
No.
time. Sometimes it is, but a lot of times it's not. The great unknown is very real.
Yeah. So the whole time of COVID thing is this huge variable that in the mix that is just like I have no idea what to expect as far as interstate travel or, what living in my van's going to be like. Yeah, but I've been setting myself up for a lifestyle change. Definitely a firm lifestyle change towards simplicity and a lot of physical activity and, very boundaried periods of work and external commitment. And yeah, so I'm still, the big challenge I'm dealing with right now is this transition from where I've been so comfortable for the last 11 years in this house and with, a multitude of space. I've got this great big huge house and I'm shedding like 2,200 square foot house down to like a 60 square foot van.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's so amazing, right? And it's so much unknown. So much unknown. I've been laughing with my friends about, I mean, I'm sure everyone in the world has seen the comedy 2020 memes going on, where one meme is John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John all perfect in their Grease roles, and that's January 2020, and then you've got on the bottom John Travolta and Uma Thurman from Pulp Fiction, and they're all like effed up, and it's July 2020. I feel like I said this to Sarah last night, my roommate and one of my best friends. She and I were laughing at just how ridiculous it has been, how nothing theoretically will surprise us anymore because we just had a hurricane hit New Jersey. That's usually your department, Jay.
Yes, we had this huge warning, hurricane, as the news always does, and we literally, like, the morning it's supposed to hit, we got a 20-minute rain shower, and then it was blue skies all day, and the cloud line stayed exactly at the coast, and we didn't even get a cloud. Nothing. Just blue skies for the next 2 days. No wind, no nothing. Just perfect summer Florida weather, and you're like, pretty sure there's a hurricane right nearby. It just slid by.
Weird. It's so weird. Yeah. Meanwhile, I sit in my office where I'm sitting now, and there's this giant, amazing tree behind our house. That big, giant part of it fell down, and I was like, "Whoa!" And then the power was out its power's still out for a lot of people. We got ours back yesterday, but was out for days and days, and it's just one of those. And again, I don't actually experience that as a real issue. It's just kind of annoying. It's an inconvenience, but I tend to experience most unexpected things as kind of potentially fun, which sounds, just stay with me because I know not everything is fun, but there is one of my automatic default, responses to things, to the unexpected, is to find humor in it. Like I've been laughing a lot because you can't make this shit up. It's so intense and so crazy, and the murder hornets and the this and the that and all those jokes. But that's speaking to the extremity of what we're in, and I almost think that's so liberating and freeing. Of that, you know what? It's like this awesome experience of surrender when you're not trying to stop the next bad thing from happening, that you just really give in to what's going to occur while being intentional with your actions. You know what I mean? What are you putting your time and energy into? What are you spending your time and energy caring about? How are you responding to and relating to the challenges that come across your plate? And so for me, I tend to laugh. I tend to laugh at a lot of things, not to take the seriousness out of the things that need that and warrant that, but because there's been so many things on the list, I've started to laugh a lot more. It's like can't make it up.
I've been doing a lot of laughing, but I've also been doing a lot of crying. I'm just like, okay, just let it out. It's fine. The other day, if you guys want to see this, if you're watching the YouTube, I completely smacked my head the day before last. Like, it's one of those things where you're laying on the ground doing some work, and I just sat up that like 6 inches and whacked my forehead on the bottom edge of the door of my van, and I felt it hit directly, and it's a pressure wound, just from bumping it. It's cut the skin open, and I felt the blood dripping down my forehead, between my eyes, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to lay here soaked in sweat and dirt and sticky stuff and blood rolling down my face. And I'm like, yep, this is how my days are going lately. And it's pretty much every day. Like, I think I've hit my head every day for the last 3 weeks. I'm so sick of it. I'm serious. Like, every day I'm like, bam. Oh.
That's what I mean by the humor part of it. Because, like, yeah, of course it's not. Yeah. That sucks, Oh, of course it sucks. Yeah. And trust me, there are days I cry too, but they're far less these days. They're far less these days. So I hope that trend continues for me. But yeah, I feel a surrender in a positive, empowered way over me. At least today, at least this past week, I've been feeling a lot of that, even amidst all of the intense workload that I've been engaged in as well.
One of the things that I've been happy about, I guess in a way of thinking about how I've been responding to my own situation and my own circumstances, is I've been able to recognize when I'm just done, like I'm tired, and it's happening a lot earlier than I'm used to. I'm finding myself out of steam and just needing to just recharge way earlier in the day or the evening. I'm just like, okay, I can't work until 9:00 tonight on this project that I'd like. It's 7:00 and I need to just be sitting down, and that's it. I got nothing else. And I question myself because I like to push myself, I like to make sure that I'm giving everything I have, but I've been able to recognize I'm like, my head's spinning. I'm not being productive. I'm getting frustrated. I'm just spinning my wheels per se and not getting any value from the effort that I'm attempting to put in. And so thereby recognizing that rest is the better option,
Yep.
in that situation, and allowing myself to rest without feeling guilt or like I'm letting myself down in any way, and just being like, okay, I'm not getting to that today.
Yeah.
It's going to have to wait until the next time I have energy to put towards it,
Yep. So that's totally been a moving benchmark for me as well. In the times of COVID, yes. But in general, that's been something I've had to really work to get to be like not guilty or not agitated at open loops. I have historically, as a young entrepreneur, I really struggled having any open loops, and you can't live like that because entrepreneurship is one big open loop. Like, you're never going to get everything done. So I had to really intentionally get good at that. And it's serving me now because of, again, the workload, but there's so much I can't possibly finish it, quote unquote, in a day. And yeah, just like you said, when it's time for me to lay down and rest, I have to do it. Otherwise, I'm going to burn out and have a bigger breakdown.
I'm feeling a little bit of fear lately. This morning, I actually woke up to kind of a panicking, fearful dream.
Yeah.
And it was a very realistic moment in a dream. I was just packing some stuff. Like, I was loading some stuff into a box. It had to do with my upcoming move, and I was packing some things and suddenly just got really scared and started to have this feeling of panic and like feeling of not knowing, and kind of a breakdown moment, like a little collapse of kind of like just a little fall to the knees and kind of cry because I just don't know what's coming and how it's going to turn out and why. And it was somewhat unsettling because I had been awake already. I had woken up. I think I had gotten a little bit of water and gone to the bathroom, and I'd laid back down and I'd fallen asleep again, and then had this very unsettling dream. And woke up from that and regained my consciousness to the morning and recognized it and realized that as I had sat back down, I had started my morning meditation and fallen asleep in my meditation. So I'm ping-ponging in between this like state of mindfulness and like awareness of self and like falling into this state of unknown and fear and just ricocheting back and forth. And I really feel like that's kind of where my state has been lately, is in this like inside the pinball machine, just getting hit by the bumpers, and other times the ball is just casually cruising across the board, and all of a sudden, kaboosh, it gets nailed and goes the other direction, some flipper or something. Oh my God.
Oh my God. That's so amazing. I've been having crazy dreams lately. I used to have a recurring dream, like a recurring nightmare, and I don't have it anymore at all, but it was this really crazy dream. Have I ever told you about this dream?
Oh, please. I'd love to hear.
Okay, yeah.
I have a bunch of them, so I'm curious.
Oh yeah, this was one I used to have all the time. This is many years ago. I used to have this dream where my brother and I were hiding in in our garage in some sort of cubby area, and there were totally like bad people with guns trying to find us. Like, it was a terrifying dream. And it was always a version of that. So we were always hiding. We were always, to my brother. It was always my brother and me hiding together. And these people with massive guns were trying to find us and kill us, basically. And they never did. It was always just, that was the dream. That was the very simplistic share around it. And as I grew, I feel like very much it's connected to my growth and healing as a human being and all of that stuff. That's a longer probably share, but it went away as I got a handle on my own stress, my own ability to navigate my waking life in a more calm, mature way. But yeah, lately I've been having wild dreams, not necessarily scary, but fucking weird in a cool way. Like, I mean, again, I could go on and on about the dreams that I've had, but yeah, lately they've been weird. And I had a period where I didn't dream much at all, and they've sort of resurged recently, which, again, who knows? I'd need some guidance on interpreting that. What's been yours? Tell me more about yours.
Well, I have a few different recurring dreams that I've had my whole life. There's one theme, which is, I've always called it a déjà vu, which is like I find myself in some scene in a dream, and it doesn't really make any sense. It's always a little disjointed. Things are just kind of slightly out of place. Like, it's kind of like it's faux. It's made up. And some kind of a facade, like there's a game being played. But anyways, I'm in some scene and it just feels weird and I don't know what I'm doing there. And the dream is insignificant. It's just some passing moment in a dream. But at some point in my life later, 6 months or a year down the road, I pass a moment and I'm like, oh, that's the moment from my dream. So it's kind of like this future casting, foretelling of the future. So that's something I've experienced my whole life. And oftentimes when I have found myself in that moment, I've been like, I wrote this down. Like, I've made a note of this moment, and there's sometimes where it's been just crazy specific.
Wow.
Then I've got a couple other recurring dreams. One is I do wheelies a lot. I like to have this like recurring dream, and when it comes around, I love it. It's one of my favorite dreams. And I have some like small motorcycle, like 100cc dirt bike that's perfect for doing wheelies on, and I'm just toying around like I'm riding a unicycle and just having all the fun in the world, like playing. It's very, very playful, kind of circus-like, kind of just this mode of play type dream. And I have another one, base jumping dreams. I've had those since I became a base jumper. I've had them constantly. I had some skydiving dreams early on, but they went away pretty quick, and base jumping dreams took over.
Wow.
And I have these scenes which are like places. They're like, I could swear they exist, that they're part of the earth, like they're real places, but I think they're kind of homologations of all these places that I've been and that I've lived and that I've imagined, and they're kind of made up worlds. And so there's like an uptown in the city, there's a downtown in the city, there's a waterfront in the city, and then there's like this, mountain canyon areas, and I'll revisit these places over and over again, and I'll go explore them and go jump buildings and go jump off cliffs and have these massive adventures, and they're like, it's just a story that never ends. It continues on, and there's never, those dreams are virtually always free from any kind of trauma or fears. There's a playful note, but there's also something that's like if you're gonna sneak into a building to jump off of it, and you're gonna have to like get around some kind of security, or you're gonna have to sneak in somehow. Sometimes it's like a fully operating bank building, and you gotta like get into this bank, and this is like real, like this is the truth of it. If you're gonna go jump off a bank building, you gotta sneak into a bank, so
Oh my God.
yeah. And so these dreams they're quite fun, actually, and they play out these whole storylines. I have one more that's a weird one.
Oh my God, I love it.
Oh, this one is the one that bothers me. It gets me really upset, and man. I don't know where it's rooted in. And it's alligators,
okay.
Right? Not crocodiles, but alligators.
Okay.
And they're almost always just like as they do, they just lay there. They just lay there, and I'm in some dark, murky, swampy place, and I have to navigate my way through these dozens of or hundreds of 12 to 14 foot long big reptiles that are just laying in wait. And sometimes it's literally like stepping over them, creeping through this, like, don't wake up the gators, or like having them chase me. These are torment dreams. These are the ones that, and they've happened. I think I've probably had like 40 of those kinds of dreams,
Oh my God. I know. I feel like it's normal to have those types of recurring dreams and the like stress induced things. And I mean, even last night, for example, I had this weird dream about my childhood home, and like I basically had gone away for a night or something like that, and I wasn't supposed to come back and visit or something, but basically my mom and my stepdad in this dream had totally like not demolished the home, but there was these like giant cement, like there was this like giant cement structure with a roof, and it was connected to my childhood home, but at first it looked like my childhood home was gone. and I was like, oh my God, I was kind of freaking out in the dream. I wasn't like wildly upset in the dream, but I was just like, holy shit, like no. And then I realized it was just some like weird addition that they had put on my childhood home, and that as I went in further, the childhood home was still there, and it was no problem. But it was like, so literally, this is happening now, you know what I mean? That happened. That was a dream I had last night. So for people listening who are like, oh God, what are my dreams? What does it say about me? It's normal.
I had a really, really, really insightful dream last week, about a week ago, and it became very lucid, where I woke up in the dream to the fact that I was dreaming, but didn't wake up from my state of sleeping, right? Yep. So lucid dreaming. And it was something in the dream seemed, just not quite right, where I'm like, no, things don't work like that in the real world, And so I was able to pick something out and go, that's not right. And go, if that's not right, then I must not be in the default world that we live in when we're awake and conscious. And so I called it out, per se, inside my own consciousness, and was able to say that's not real, and say, oh yeah, well, if that's not real, then nothing else is, and then all this is a fabrication. And if all this is a fabrication, I can make it into whatever I want it to be, and basically took control of reality. And at the same time, there was an element that became illuminated to me in this process, because I've had lucid dreaming before where I've been able to kind of break away from the unconscious experience into the conscious experience, but I didn't necessarily have it reveal anything. It was more just like having the paintbrushes and the paints. You just get to make up whatever goes on the canvas, but you don't really get to see like what's behind the canvas kind of thing. And in this one, I kind of got to see everything. It was like, yeah, not only am I waking up to this fact that I'm dreaming and that I'm conscious in my own dream, but I'm waking up to the idea that the experience of dreaming looks like this if you step even further back and be outside of the outside of the experience while in the experience. It's hard to describe. Yeah.
The movie Inception is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
I mean, for people who haven't seen it, I'm not ruining anything, but it talks a lot about dreaming and that type of creative process in the mind, and that's just fascinating to me. That I can't say that I've had that many experiences with that. Gosh, if any, to be truthful. I'm trying to go back into my memory bank to be like, I imagine I have, but nothing super memorable where I'm like, I'm in this, creating this dream. Nothing that stood out so much or recurred enough for me to remember it. But yeah, it's been interesting recently with the level of detail that I've been remembering, which has been atypical for a long time. Usually it's like I'll wake up and I'll forget it pretty much immediately unless I write it down, Yeah. But
I made some notes about that dream the other day. I think I made myself a recording. An audio recording, yeah.
Oh, man. Oh, my gosh. Yeah, I felt
crazy days.
Yeah, crazy days. I feel like it's all connected to me. It feels all connected as always. There's no mystery, I feel like, there. But yeah, it's really right now that feeling of everything is changed, the illusion of control being ripped from our minds, as we've already touched on, and watching for where I would want to control things. And again, I go back to the being in a real practice of surrender, of intentional action married with deep surrender. That has been my salve, my emotional salve. If we talk about this being a therapy session, like, what have I been doing to care for myself, to mother myself, to love myself actively, you know what I mean? Not just like the self-love. I'm talking about actively loving myself. What have I been doing to care for myself? And that's one of the biggest things is watching my mindset. Yeah, all the things of sleeping as much as I want, resting like we talked about, not watching the news, getting off Facebook too much, laughing where I can, finding the humor, and really being in a rigorous practice of surrender and intentional application of my energy and resources.
Yeah. What I wanted to say, listening to your thoughts there, brought this up inside of my own experience. And something that I've kind of come aware of recently is that, as many of you know, if you're a regular listener, I've been intentionally trying to uproot who I am and take a look at and explore myself. And through the practice of traditional therapy, through the practice of mindfulness, and through the use of psychedelic ceremonies and plant medicines. What I've come to realize is there's a word that gets thrown around a lot following plant medicine ceremonies or following therapeutic sessions, which is the word integration. And integration speaks towards the idea of taking whatever the realization that you have, whatever insight occurs for you during a appointed session that's intentionally looking for insight, and applying that insight to your life in a way where it affects who you are and changes the way that you operate, the way that you look at things, the way that you feel about things, the way that you respond to things. Integration is the application of the insight into your everyday consciousness. And what I've come to realize, it's a brutal realization too. It's a tough one because I've been exploring consciousness my whole life and through psychedelics for over 3 decades. And what has really and truly come up for me recently is that true mindfulness, true self-awareness shows all the things about ourselves that we may or may not like. And coming to an awareness of all the things that we've been unaware of puts a lot of things on our plate. Like, personally speaking, I have the idea of who I am in my mind, but I haven't had an accurate, objective, external perspective as to who I am without this true mindfulness occurring. So the more that I've delved into this idea of being self-observant, the more I actually see all the things about myself that I do and do not like. And then I realize the idea of who I am and who I actually am are not the same thing, because the actions and the things that I do and the practices and the actuality makes up who I am, and the part that's just inside of my mind is just a piece of that. So now I go, well, fuck. Now I have to undo each of these things that I find myself unhappy with, or they're not resonating at the frequency that I want them to resonate at. So an example is, I'm talking to somebody I care about and a tough point comes up and I find myself shutting down, or I find myself getting riled up, or I have some kind of a emotional response, and suddenly being aware that the emotional response is happening and being objective to it enough to go, okay, it's happening, but then also struggling with how do I control or manage that. But the bigger piece going, well, wait a second, have I always done this? And this is the big one, right? It's like, what's really coming to light for me is, I think I've been this way my whole life. And I had one this week, and here's some vulnerability. I was in special ed, right? I rode the short bus, and my whole life I've been completely, utterly convinced that I was incorrectly put in special ed, that I should never have been in special ed, because that was just a poor decision by the educational institution for how to manage a kid like me. And this week I realized I was a problem kid. I have major problems with emotions. I couldn't deal with things. I would explode or contract or run away or freak out, and I would have major emotional outbreaks. And so I was put in special ed because I had problems.
Yeah, got it.
Not because I shouldn't have been there. I was actually put there for a reason, and I continue to have these problems my entire life. And I'm like, it's 40 years later, and I'm going, oh, actually, I was put there for the right reasons, and I'm starting to recognize that these are the parts of who I am. So that's a son of a bitch.
I acknowledge you for sharing that. And I love that you shared that because, and again, I go back to, my own life experience and all of the experience I have had being allowed, intimately allowed into people's vulnerable spaces and hearts and challenges. And it's easy for me to validate something like that where it goes, oh, okay, we thought one thing and then we're blind to it for many, many, many years, and or we have an awakening to it and we're still doing it even though we're awake, because that's also normal. We talk about integration. Waking up or having an insight or having an aha to something is one simple, I mean, not simple, but one singular is what I meant. One singular, not simple. One singular part of the bigger integration and making of change or transforming of ourselves and how we show up in the world, our ways of being, all of those things. So I love that. I imagine, and you tell us, but I imagine it's almost a bit liberating to let go of that, to have that resistance dissolve in you, not that, right? Because yeah, go ahead.
So, yeah, I guess what I've been, oh, I got a doorbell ring. I'm going to leave this with you for a second.
I love it. Yeah, go for it. I have commentary.
That's the universe pressing the button.
Yeah, I have commentary while Jay is answering the door. Yeah, I've seen it a million times, guys. And I've of course experienced it myself, but it's totally normal to have things that affect us for our entire lives.
So, because I'm selling my house, I've got people coming and going for doing different things. So the survey guy's back doing some stuff. So.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, this is what I was coming to. The whole integration thing is, we have this very vision of ourselves, right? Of who we would like to be, who we see ourselves as. Like, oh, this is the me that I imagine myself being. And then there's this is the me I really am. The guy who slacks off on workouts, and the guy who drinks too much and who has, behavior issues and all these other things. And then there's the version of me that's like, yeah, this is who I'd like to remember myself as, the perfect version of, leave out all the bad stuff.
Right.
And integration is this process of coming to realize what the challenging things are and recognize them for what they really are and accept them as part of ourselves, and then choose to work on them intentfully to change them to be what we want them to be. And the challenging part of that is having to come to terms that all these things exist.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, shit.
Well, thank God. Yeah, that's why therapy and ceremony and any version of the work that can, landmark, you go to some, whatever, any version of growth where you are almost certainly to have a big breakthrough insight or more. That is scary as fuck, exactly for that reason that you just said. Because
self-realization.
we have to realize. Oh, it's the worst.
Sucks, man.
It's the worst and the best all wrapped into one. Boom, polarity. Trust the journey. Catch you later, team. We love you. That's the punctuation point.
Yeah.
Take that and integrate, team.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, sweet Lord. Again, the comedy of the extremity of growth and the intensity and the struggle of that. It's like, God, you gotta laugh. You gotta laugh because it's so crazy. Yeah. It's so intense. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love that you're doing that work for yourself. I love that anybody who's doing that work for themselves, because as much as we can laugh about the intensity and acknowledge how sucky it is, we also must acknowledge the other side of that. Once we move through that awareness, that painful moment of awareness, that painful integration of making change, which is, by the way, a long time and usually lifelong for most of us.
Oh my God, I thought this was going to be done a long time ago.
Yeah, no shit. Join the club. I'm with you. Yeah, and so anyway, but acknowledging the real and true, at least for me, freedom that I feel on the other side of healing. And again, not that that's an achievement, that I'm fully healed, that I'm not consistently and perpetually dealing with my own stuff, and over time iterating and healing it, and engaging it. But with that, like, resistance, that dissolving of resistance to myself as an imperfect being has been liberating beyond so much else. The fact that I don't have to be perfect, and there's no fucking chance I will be perfect, but like that pattern, at least for me, of perfectionism, of really not wanting to see and acknowledge certain things about myself that are my responsibility to the breakdowns and the results I'm getting in areas of my life that I don't like, you know? And just being able to accept that, and recognize it as my opportunity for transformation, even though that's hard work. Like, there's just something very, very liberating for me as this healing, recovering perfectionist, you know, that frees me.
I completely understand.
Yeah.
It's not always easy to acknowledge and accept, right? Sometimes it's so we so desperately grasp onto the idea that we are okay with being perfect, like that the idea that I can fix this, or this will get better, or something. There needs to be this like clinging on to a hope kind of thing, and just accepting everything for what it is, and that it is perfect in its current state, that there's imperfection, perfectly imperfect, as by design,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Yep. I'm with you. Oh gosh. Anything else on your mind?
I don't think so. I think I'm pretty good with this session. My therapist usually says I'm good for about 45 to 50 minutes. She says right at about 50 we lose you, so we usually wrap up around that time.
So funny.
I'm due for another session. I've got this great therapist. She's awesome. I'm really happy I did the research to find somebody that suits me. So I recommend that to anybody out there. If you're thinking about having traditional therapy, put some time into researching who you're going to work with, and that their specialities and that their background is something that specifically suits you and what your needs are and what your areas of growth are.
Yeah.
Because she's hilarious. We have this great banter back and forth, and it's mutually valuable, of course, So.
It's so awesome. We've said that a million times too. Quality professional teammates. I want to say one last thing, because this sort of came up as an idea for me in terms of my own therapy.
Yeah.
And I haven't done this in a long time, because my life is so rich with experiences. I tend to not prioritize this idea, and the idea is this, of doing a deliberate sort of week long, or like some experience that is me for me. Like going on some kind of retreat. It could be with some collective or growth experience that I want to do, but like choosing something that's for me, that's not connected to my work, that's not connected to my family, and I love both of those things, and those two things get high priority, which is why I spend a lot of my time doing those things. And so I've noticed that I've just deprioritized this idea of doing something specifically growth minded. I feel called to do ceremony again soon. It's been over a year since the last ceremony I've done. So like, it might be something inclusive of that. It might be, so I'm dancing around this idea of what's something that is specifically for my growth that I'm going to commit to and do for that pure sake. So anyway, I just wanted to put that into the space, because when I say it out loud, it makes it more real and makes me more accountable to exploring the idea.
I completely hear you, and I validate your share. For me, I think sometimes that investment can be a very, very simple thing, like taking a week to go camping. And the reason why I share that specific example is because it's very grounded in its
Yep.
natural connection to the earth. Like, go be outside, spend pretty much the whole time outside.
Yep.
And do it in nature and have it be with a big list of nothing to do.
Exactly.
You know, like
write haikus. That's what I do.
Sit by the lake, cast a fishing rod.
Yeah.
You know, like, just spending time.
That's exactly really what I've been thinking about. Some version of camping, believe it or not. No joke. I'm not just saying that because you said that. That's really been on my mind for some reason. Wanting to camp more. And I've never been a camper. Ever since back in the day at the ranch when I had to tent as a young skydiver, I was like, never again. But yeah, it's calling. It's calling for sure.
I'll go on an adventure with you sometime if you want.
Oh my God, that would be so fun. We should.
I could challenge your comfort zone.
I'm sure. Done. Let's put that on the list.
Okay.
We'll manifest that into reality at some point. I love it. Well, family, we love you. As always, we love you, we love you, we love you. Thank you for being here. Again, if you want to join the family in a more intimate way, trustthejourney.today. Scroll down, click the Patreon button. $1 a month gets you in. We like to create that community of mutual support, and it does support us to continue doing this amidst all the other things that we do. So we are grateful for those people who do support us in that way, but we're grateful for anybody who just listens or shares or whatever. So thank you guys really and truly for being with us.
I just want to personally echo that. I get messages once in a while from different people inside the community, from different people who've listened to the podcast, people from all over the world. We're so fortunate to have such a vast audience of all around the planet and such caring and loving people. And I truly appreciate every time any one of you reaches out with a little, hey man, that episode really got me where I needed it. Thank you. It really, lets us know that the effort that we put into this is having some value for you. And so thank you very much for everybody who does that.
Yeah. And per usual, keep laughing.
Keep loving.
And keep trusting the journey.